right, Acres of Diamonds community, welcome back. We're on podcast number 11. I'm joined here with DJ Lagori, co-founders of Acre Diamonds. My name is Scott Gibbs, and we have with us Taylor, not LaManna, Taylor LaManna, capital M for LaManna, and she's very adamant that we get that right. And we also wanted to know that out of all 11 podcasts, it is the coolest name. Sorry, Andy Miller and Nick Prince, but you know it is cooler than either of those names.
Yeah, those are pretty standard names.
Yeah, so
pretty basic.
Kind of like Scott Gibbs, by the way.
Yeah.
So welcome, Taylor. It's going to be awesome. I'm glad to have you here.
I'm very excited.
So Taylor is a graduate, a
Yes,
recent
she is.
graduate of Acres
She
of
did it.
Diamonds. She did it. Congratulations.
Yes.
Yay, Taylor. And 7-week program. Normally a 6-week
Normally
program.
6.
And,
We extended it.
You extended it.
Yes,
And we're
it
going
was
to talk. Are we going to talk about that episode?
We're going to talk about
that
number
session?
7. We'll call it the 7th meeting. Kinda.
The 7th
Yeah.
meeting. And it's proven to be transformational for Taylor, and we're going to talk about that and the new chapter she's starting in her life, which is freaking awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how long ago the program started, what took place, and kind of between the two of you, let us know how it went.
So it started, what was it, 7 weeks ago? That
Yep,
was,
roughly.
we have a good mutual friend, Jack Ann, who introduced me to Taylor and said, listen, this girl's she's got to go through the program. She would be awesome.
Jack was on the podcast.
Jack was on the podcast too. Yep, shout out Jack. And he said she'd be a great candidate for the program. So he gave me her number, and I reached out to her, and it was kind of like I was just throwing caution to the wind, just seeing, throw it all out there, see what would happen. And so Taylor was like, yeah, I think this would be really cool. And originally, the past people who have gone through the program, we've met in public areas. And so I was like, well, do you want to meet at like a Starbucks or like some public area?
Oh, to set this up though, this is right when COVID was.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Got it.
that's why
got
I got.
All right. So
yeah.
So now public areas are kind of off limits.
Public areas are shut. And I remember that we were talking. She goes, well, what's still open? like where can we meet then? And so we figured out that Starbucks was closed, but the drive-thru was open. So I was throwing out some, seeing what kind of humor I was working with, and so I said, well, let's just meet in the drive-thru then.
And Taylor's response was?
Sounds good. What time?
Okay, to be
Taylor.
fair, I did not know you yet, so I did not know your level of sarcasm. I just wasn't sure if you were just weird. So I was just like...
Or stupid. Maybe he was stupid.
So I was just like, all right, I mean, you know this better than I do.
It would have been memorable, just both of us sitting
in the
drive-thru. And I remember I even said, I was like, Taylor, how the hell would we make that work? Like, would we both sit in our own vehicles? And she was like, I don't know. I just panicked and said yes. So.
I did.
And this is the very first discussion you guys had?
Yeah,
oh,
just about.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we broke the ice
That's
right
funny.
off the bat.
Yeah.
That's classic.
But basically what ended up happening was I asked her, I said, are you comfortable with us meeting at your home, or is that something you would be interested in? And she said, I'm fine with that. We can meet, in my living room, and so that's really how it all started. And so the first time I went over there, I just wanted to for us to get used to who each other were. So we just kind of introduced each other, and here's who I am, here's why I'm passionate about this, who are you? And so we just basically had like an hour-and-a-half meeting of introducing ourselves to one another. And I basically said, listen, this is, if you want to go through this program, you have to want to go through it. Like I'm not getting here trying to sell you something that you might not necessarily want. You have to be interested in it and actually say, all right, I think this stuff is kind of cool, thinking different, self-improvement. So we had that initial meeting, and I texted her, I think a couple days later, and I said, you want to keep going with this? She said, let's do it. So that was how it started.
So Taylor, that's a great point. I'm very curious what prompted you to even think that this was something that you'd be interested in? Was it Jack, or was it what? So what got you to even take a call?
So honestly, Jack definitely told me a little bit about it. I think it was on St. Patrick's Day.
Uh-oh.
That was
over drinks.
Yeah, and I remember that was when he texted me. We could barely make a coherent conversation.
Yeah,
so that was Saturday evening.
We were playing beer pong when Jack texted DJ. But honestly, he told me a little bit about it. But I already am, like, I'm super into, like, progressive things that, you know, could help me in my self-improvement, things like that. Like, I do go to therapy, and I do like to talk about, like, things that are going on in my life, just because, I mean, when I was younger, I was a closed book, so I kept everything inside. I was crazy just because, you know, it would all start boiling inside me and then come out at once. So definitely the past year, I've been super open about, like, how I'm feeling, like, expressing myself completely, just being transparent with everybody. So when this program was introduced to me, I thought this was perfect because, and I told TJ several times, I was like, it's not like, you know, a basic therapy session when it's like they're just asking you questions and, like, nodding and giving you some weird supportive look and just, like, it's basically, like, essentially a game of, like, 20 questions about your problems. So I liked this because you were able to completely open up, and it was comfortable because he was sharing personal stories also, and it made me open up a lot more. And I think that I was able to, like, we've actually done it so many times where I was just talking on a rant for, like, 30 minutes by myself while he was just watching me, and then I would come to, like, these crazy conclusions, and it's just, like, you don't realize, like, how much you could understand about yourself just by, like, talking yourself through things. So I really do think that this program is super important because, I mean, no one does it enough. So I was definitely interested in, and I, you know, just wanted to feel better mentally.
You know, I'll tell you, Taylor, you actually described one of the foundational principles of Acres of Diamonds. The reality is we all have greatness within us, and for lots of different reasons. It's been covered up, right? It's been dirtied, it's been sullied, and we forget, right? There's something got posted the other day. It says champions are made, not born. I reposted it and edited it, and I said champions are born and then unmade, right? So you have greatness within you. You know that. Like, you've done enough self-reflection where you know that. And then the two of you, right, DJ was able to ask you some questions, and which got you thinking in a different way. And then after 30 minutes, you're like, holy shit, this is my conclusion. Thanks, DJ. And DJ's like, yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah, I think that was it. Sounds good.
Nice job, DJ. Good question, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But that's the power of it, right? I mean, the questions that we've put together in Acres of Diamonds, we spent hours, hours thinking about it, right?
And they're designed that way. And I asked Taylor, I was like, you know, when you asked him these questions, did it feel weird? Did it feel like you had never answered these questions before? And I think she said something along the lines of, yes, it was difficult to answer them, but once I started going with them, then it just kind of came out, which is similar to the 20-minute rants. You know, it is kind of like you get asked these questions that you've never been asked before, but you have the answers to them. And the answers are awesome once you start digging into them.
I feel like we should put together a disclaimer here that the results realized by Taylor LaManna are not indicative of other clients because she was already predisposed to greatness, and she started therapy and personal development program. You know,
she was ready. She was ready for it before it even got introduced.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the why. That's great. So the first meeting went great because you said you wanted a second meeting, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And then so meeting 2, meeting 3, meeting 4. What happened? What was this one meeting that you told me about, that you both told me about, that was off agenda?
Yeah. And
why? Why was it off agenda? What were the circumstances of that, and what was the outcome?
The meeting was on our third. It was the third topic, I believe.
Yeah, it was roles. It was roles, and I mean, I could give a little backstory. So
yeah, please.
I was working from home, working remotely. It was boring, but you know, I was driving through, doing my job, doing the best that I could, and me and my boss actually got into it that day. I'm a very opinionated female, so I definitely speak up when I'm bothered about
3
something.
3 years in the Army, by the way.
Air Force.
Oh, excuse me. Really? Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
No idea. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he said something that I thought was completely inappropriate and unprofessional, and I called him out on it, and not directly to his face. I I had a headset on and he could listen through a headset, so I said it to my roommate, and I did add on after I said it, I hope he hears this. So I had no problem saying it to his face. So then he called me and was questioning me, and then definitely just started picking out little things. Definitely just getting under my skin, and it just felt like things, were just going to keep being patchy. I was going to walk on eggshells every time I was going to work. I was just super uncomfortable. I was super checked out since January, so at this point I was kind of over it. But DJ came over, we were getting ready for our meeting, and I was a mess. I was so stressed. I could not stop thinking about it. Like, he would try telling me a story, and I would literally just stop him and then start saying, oh my God, but what do I do about this? And like, I could not stop thinking about it, and it was just on my mind. And right away, he recognized that. He was just like, all right, look, we're not doing this. Which is, I really respect that. I mean, I've had several male bosses. I've actually only had male bosses, leaders essentially. So the fact that like DJ went out of his way to make sure that I was okay, he could help me out, he could talk me through my problems, was super respectable, and I definitely think more people need to be like you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
But you could start with how you saw your side of the story.
That was a very good explanation. Basically, I came in and it's like, all right, you're ready to roll. Gracie had already attacked me.
Yep.
Her dog,
My
Gracie.
dog.
Gracie basically went through the Acres of Diamonds program with us. I mean, she was sitting right next to us the whole time. So I came in, I was hanging out with Gracie, and I was like, how you doing, Taylor? And she said, well, I'm not doing that good. And very blunt about it, like she said, she says what's on her mind. And I said, well, what's wrong? And she basically explained, the little altercation that she had gotten in. And so I sat down, and that kind of put me in a mood of, all right, is this appropriate? Is this the right thing to do? To say, all right, we're going to talk about the importance of knowing your role in various environments and how this can benefit you actually being conscious of it. And so I kind of started thinking, and we opened up. We had an objective from the past week that I think we were going to read to one another, and we had finished reading the objective, and we were kind of in a little bit of a better state, but it was to the point where I said, I don't think the value of going through this session right now is there. And so I basically closed up my notebook, and I put my iPad away and put everything to the side of me. I said, we're not doing this tonight. I said, we're not going through roles. I said, tonight we're just going to vent to one another, and we're just going to have a little personal night.
That was after you offered me a coffee and a burrito.
Yeah,
two things that do not go together. But
that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, maybe she's hungry. I was like, maybe you want to go get a burrito. You want to just go get coffee or something to take your mind off of it. But no, she did not want the burrito. She did not want the coffee. We just started talking, and we started talking about what had happened, where we were now, and where we possibly wanted to go, things along those lines. And that night was probably the longest night we were together. I mean, I probably got there around 5:30 and left around 8:30. So that was about 3 hours of us just hanging out, just being friends, basically. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to also realize that we had only seen each other or been together for basically 4 days.
Yeah.
Prior to that.
4 days with an hour and a half or 2 hours at a time,
yeah.
right?
So we were.
So 6 hours.
6
hours into your relationship.
6 hours into the relationship, and by the end of that night, I was like, I feel like I've known this girl forever. Like, I trust her 100%. Like, this is. It was not only was it beneficial, I think, for her, but it helped me a ton too.
Well, I think this is what true leaders will understand, right? If you're doing your job right with her, you're asking questions, and the nature of asking questions is then you should be listening for the answers, which indicates you're learning something, right? So yeah. You should always, as good leaders, are always learning. Couple things about what you just said. Number one, the what do you call them? The objectives.
The objectives, yeah.
So you've turned those now into the challenges on the Acres of Diamonds challenge group. Yeah. So that's how that actually came about.
Those are exploding.
Yeah. So that's happening really well. And the other thing that I found really, really impressive about when you described me this process that day is that you understood your role in the relationship, which was you were there for Taylor, period. You weren't there for you. You put your ego aside and your need, want, and desire to follow your agenda and say, okay, it's not my agenda. It's actually Taylor's agenda. How do I best serve Taylor today? And then you gave her the opportunity to define that for you, right? You met her where she was, so to speak. And then Taylor walked into it. So you had a strong role, right? Which was vulnerability, transparency, authenticity, right? And together, you guys came up with what?
Well, so basically, the way that I handle stress, which we've talked about several times, is I do know how to deal with stress. I'm the type of person that likes to handle it right then and there.
She's very good at it.
This way, it's not an issue anymore.
Yeah.
It's not stressful anymore to me. So we sat there, and he was like, all right, so here's what we're going to do. Why is this an issue, essentially? And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be uncomfortable at work, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, is this is this what you want to do? And I was like, I mean, I've told him already, I want to move to North Carolina. I wanted to promote within the company, but it was super frustrating because of COVID going on. There was a hiring freeze. So, I'm just sitting here stuck in this role, in this position, a job that I did not like for God knows how long, just because, the hiring freeze, I didn't know, like, whenever this would end, I could be stuck here till fall. And I was not enjoying it, and I was miserable. So, and DJ noticed that I was miserable. Like, I did not want to do this job. He's like, well, I mean, have you looked on Indeed? I was like, I mean, a while ago. And I had told him the story of me being, like, ignorant one day at work when my boss annoyed me, and I went on Indeed right in front of him. But that was it. So he's like, I mean, maybe you should just, look. So I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. So, the stress started, going down, and I updated my resume once he left that night, and we talked more about, like, what I wanted to do, and, like, what, essentially, like, things that make me happy. I was like, I like sales. I like talking to people. I like dealing with people. I'm great face-to-face. So he actually went home that night and was, like, looking up jobs where I could help out people, which was super sweet.
Looking up, like, counseling jobs that you didn't need, like, a degree in counseling in.
So I was thinking, like, more so, like, outside sales. I could sell people something that's going to help them out, that's going to benefit them, things like that. So I was, trying to figure out what do I want to sell, because, I mean, at this point I was selling payroll, and it's just like you had to convince them you need our payroll, which I don't like convincing somebody something. Like, I want the product to sell itself. I want to be able to just talk and build a relationship with, like, my clients. So I actually, the next day, I got on Indeed, had my resume updated, and I uploaded everything. And no joke, within the first 5 minutes, I had 3 separate jobs email me. Yes.
That's awesome. So that's awesome.
And so I was like, okay, all right, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I don't have a degree, but I'll be fine. Like, that's what I was worried about. Like,
so just I have to interrupt you.
Yeah.
People that are in the military, and I'm talking big companies, big Fortune 500 companies. I came from General Electric. We made it a point to recruit from the armed services. The reason we made it a point to recruit from the armed services, because at 18, 19, 20 years old, you were giving levels of responsibility and levels of decision-making authority over the life, safety of other people, right? So at very young ages, you were given responsibility for organization, responsibility for leadership, responsibility for self-deterministic behavior that isn't being provided in colleges, isn't being provided in I mean, part of why we do Acres of Diamonds is because those skills that you acquired in the Air Force are missing from people today. So it's not, to me, it's not a surprise that you are in such high demand. And my bet is, number one, it was the Air Force, and number two, it was a female that was in the Air Force, right? So I think those two together will serve you for a very, very, very long time. And I'm a self-talk bitch. Like, I hated what you just said. I don't have a degree. I don't give a fuck. right?
I mean, I
You've
always
got-
thought that too, but
Well, you need to.
just now you hear it all the time.
No, don't worry about it. Honest to God, don't you ever say that to yourself again. You have an Air Force degree, right? Think of it that way, and it's a much stronger position to come from, right? It's a unique and market dominating thought versus I can't, I shouldn't, I couldn't, I wouldn't. We don't use those words, right? I have an Air Force degree. All right?
That's
All
a
right,
degree.
I do.
That-
It definitely sounds cooler.
Yeah.
No offense to everyone with it.
Yeah, no offense.
I don't have an Air Force degree, and I don't think Coach Gibbs has an Air
No,
Force degree.
I would like one.
It'd be awesome.
I do appreciate that. So essentially, I got those 3 job opportunities in outside sales in North Carolina, in Raleigh, all where I wanted to be. I was like, this is perfect. I'll be okay. And then, the day goes by, I'm just out of it. So
And we talked about too, like that, because that was the day you were supposed to have the call.
I was supposed to have a
right?
call with my boss
And
just
we
to
talked
discuss the day
about-
before.
Yeah, like
He canceled
being
on me.
neutral and stuff like that.
He canceled on me, and I told DJ, I was like, "Oh, this is not a good sign." He canceled the call with me. Like, I was like, he's gonna
It's a
set
bad
something up
feeling.
for the end of the day and talk with me. So I get on a call with my boss and his boss, and I'm on the call, and I'm just hearing them just go on. And it's so frustrating listening to him talk because my boss was very sexist, and it was just frustrating to work under.
You don't respond well to that?
No.
No?
I do not.
Who would have thought?
He
Big
actually,
surprise
Oh
there.
my
Whoa.
goodness.
he
Huh.
actually
I'd kick his ass.
told me that I was terrifying. So he definitely was
Oh,
scared
yeah.
of me.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, no, he said I was utterly terrifying, and I could quote those words.
By the way, I don't get that vibe from you at all.
Thank you.
I get strong.
Yeah,
Thank you.
strong,
I get
genuine.
strong. I get strong,
Yeah.
but I don't get terrified.
Thank you.
No.
So I got on the call and I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm done listening to this. And they were just like, what? And I was like, I quit. What do I do with my stuff? And they're like, well, that wasn't the goal of this phone call. I was like, no, it wasn't. But you know what? I come into work tomorrow, I'm walking on eggshells because I spoke my mind about my boss. He's going to be treating me every day as if he resents me because I spoke up to him. And I definitely called him out. I said that he was the worst hire for the company. I was very angry. So I let it all out. And essentially I was just like, all right, yep, what do I do with my stuff? And he just kept saying, no, that wasn't the goal. I was like, I don't care if it was the goal. I don't want to work under him ever again. And I never will. He's not fit to be a leader. And
by the way, Air Force experience, you probably, there's a great thing about the Air Force and the armed services. You get to see great leaders, but you also get to see
awful.
not great leaders,
Awful
right? Because there's some
Yes.
really awful leaders there too.
Yes.
So by seeing the contrast, right? You know good
Oh, yeah.
leadership when you see it.
Yes, like firsthand. I always compare basically every boss or leader that I've had to one of my supervisors
Who is that?
in the military. Jesse Cornell. He's a tech sergeant. Maybe I'll send this to him so you
Yeah.
can
No,
hear.
so
I,
seriously,
Yeah.
guys, we have to promote strong leaders. There's terrible leadership around us everywhere, and
Yeah.
it gets promoted all the time. We have to
Yeah.
promote the good leaders.
I
Make sure you
agree.
reach out to him
Jesse
and let him.
Cornell.
Yes,
Yeah.
Cornell. He actually he was definitely one of the best leaders I had. He knows that I was going through a rough patch, with everything going on when I was separating, and he would literally he would say, you know what, don't wear your uniform today. Wear your civilian clothes. Go to the chalet we have because on base we had a chalet. He's like, work with some of the boys over there. So I was building decks with them. Didn't have to report in office, and he just knew that doing that stuff, keeping me busy, would relax me. He was always there for me, and he was a leader that he would do things that he expected from other people. Those leaders that it's like, I expect you to do this, but I'm not going to do it. He was never like that.
That's not leadership.
No.
He would come in early almost every day. He would stay late. He would look out for his people, and I have so much respect for him.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And I wish Jessie could see her eyes right now.
I know.
They're not quite welling up, but they're on the precipice of welling up because of how he made her feel
Yeah.
as a leader, right? So that's another thing for people to recognize as leaders. People don't remember right, leadership unless you make them feel
a certain
significant.
Mm-hmm.
If you make them feel heard, if you make them feel listened to, that's what people remember about their leaders.
Yeah, he I mean, he was a leader, he was a friend, like even when I separated, he actually conveniently he was very close with my ex, Justin, that we had talked about.
Yes.
He was super close with Justin, and I still have a lot of respect for Justin. He's a great person. But when we first separated, Jesse actually texted me, reached out, just asking, hey, how are you doing? Like, are you okay? Like, do you need anything? Be strong. I saw your Facebook post. Just know that somebody's here for you. Know that I'm here for you. And I just,
That's awesome.
just hearing that, like, just sometimes that's what you need. Like, sometimes you just need to hear from not just anybody, but from like a certain person that like you respect, that you have a lot of care and love for. So
that's a good point.
It's
a very good point.
Yeah, it definitely it made my day. It made my week. So I mean, I still think about it, and it was forever ago. It feels like
it was important. It was something you remember. It was a memory.
Yeah. So back to the story. I was just like, they're like, we'll send you a box, and I was like, cool. Consider it done. And then he's like, I need a email of resignation. I was like, all right, just typed it out. Hung up.
That was it.
And I left. And then I called my team, and I let them all know what was going on. And I mean, they all agreed with me. They felt the same. So I knew I wasn't alone. They all still loved me. I mean, I definitely like to think I made an impact on the team. I felt like I was a leader myself. I would help out the new people. I would give everyone tips. And just seeing some poor leadership like that, like, I told him, I was like, I want to be a boss one day, I want to be a leader. I want to be the leader that I never had, and then the leader that I had, like, Jesse Cornell. I want to be someone like him. I want to impact people's lives. I just think it's something that I'm destined to do.
100%.
Yeah.
100% you are too. And for me, I heard a great quote about leadership from a leader that I really came to appreciate. And he said, when I was going through a challenge with change management in one of my teams, he said, Scott, are you the type of person that leads through fear and intimidation, or inspiration and motivation? And I said, for sure the latter, inspiration and motivation. He said, is your team moving the way you want them to move yet? I said, no. And he said, well, instead of wishing it was easier, figure out how to get better at inspiring and motivating those people to see what you see in them. And I'll never, I'll always remember that, right? As he inspired me to be better at inspiring others. And it was, it stuck with me.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years probably.
And those are those moments that you remember.
Yeah. It's like Michael Scott said, would you rather be feared or loved? Both. I want people to fear how much they love me.
Fear how much they
That's
love.
outstanding.
That's
That
great.
is great.
Well, that's fantastic. So,
yeah, so
you're transformational.
continuing the story now. This is where it gets juicy. So, I quit, sent my stuff in, and that night I texted DJ. I was like, I quit.
It just said I quit.
I quit, and he called me right away.
So he probably thought you're quitting Acres of Diamonds.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, can't have that.
I was just like,
What did I do wrong?
To get a text that just says I quit, I'm like, oh shit, what does this mean? So I immediately called her.
And he said, he's like, I could just hear how happy you are, and so many people have noticed. They're like, you're glowing. Like, you just seem so much happier. Like, you got rid of that anxiety that just carried with you from that job, and the leaders that you were dealing with and things like that. So, I applied for a few more jobs, and I started finding a lot of jobs for solar energy down in North Carolina, and I was like, this is perfect, because first of all, the product sells itself. One thing that I wanted, saving the earth.
The earth, yeah.
And two, it's outdoor sales, so I'm talking to clients all day, just dealing with them face to face, and I loved it. And so, I applied for some solar energy jobs, I think 2 to be exact. The next day I got a call, and he gave me a phone interview, and then the next day I got another phone interview, and instead of getting an in-person interview, he just said, I would be stupid not to hire you. So I got the job 4 days after I quit my job. Pay is great. 3 times
Yeah.
what I was making before. So
Pardon me?
3 times what I was making before.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
So, and I did all that with the support of DJ. And, you know, I found an apartment, got everything done. This all happened within 2 weeks. Like, 2 weeks.
It was happening like...
It was so
wild.
fast.
Yeah.
Like, my life was literally on fast forward.
Mm-hmm. It
So,
was.
you know, I found a place. I got Gracie registered as a emotional support animal. So, I'm super excited about that. So, you know, I don't have to pay for her in my complex. And, I mean, she is. She's the sweetest.
She is an emotional
She's,
support.
she's
Yeah.
the sweetest.
Yeah, animals
girl
are.
ever.
No doubt, animals are.
She's like a human.
She'd come up to the table and just put her paws
on the table and just stand there.
while we were talking,
And just watch us
talking,
talk,
and just
yeah.
like she'd nod her head, like, yeah, that's a good point. that
So
makes
funny.
sense.
So yeah, so I did that. Started packing everything. Did some shopping. Got some more stuff for the house. Hired a mover. My mom and my older sister and my nephew are coming to help me move, and I'm super excited about that. We're going to the beach the next day, which is my favorite thing, and it's going to be my nephew's first trip to the beach, so I have a lot to look forward to.
That's awesome.
You know, we're only going up from here.
Hell yeah.
I'm amazed.
So that was quite a day, and that was like everything she just described. Like you said, it was fast. I mean, the meeting to the I quit to the new job was seriously like 5 days. It was. And I remember walking in the next week, and I was like, "What are you kidding me? You're gonna get a new job in 5 days? Like, we don't even have like a grace period to like think of, you know, what's the next move?" But no, she was like, "Screw this! I know what I want," and went and did it, and
you
it
know,
was awesome.
tough people know what they want.
Amen. That's awesome.
So yeah, so I take it you got into some toughness discussions.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite topics.
Oh yeah. You said that in love.
In love.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I have a very, very strong opinion about toughness. Where did you come down on mental toughness versus physical toughness?
So we actually, I think, for about roughly like 45 minutes, just were like back and forth, and not arguing. We were having like a very intelligent conversation.
Yeah,
it was great because I think we were able to both sway each other, which I think is super powerful because. I mean, most times that I have debates with people, they're just like, "Oh, you're wrong," or "I'm right." But like, this was probably one of the most successful debates I've ever had. But we both came to an agreement. I forgot what we.
It was like a general toughness.
Yeah, because I thought I was like, they're two different things, and he's like, they're the same thing, and I was like, and I worded it in a different way.
Her wording was phenomenal to the point where I was almost like, "Shit."
Well, I remember the reason I'm asking because you called me.
Yeah.
You called me and said, I've just been challenged on one of our theories, one of our hypotheses. I said, which one? He said, toughness. I said, I'm all ears. Let's hear it. And I actually said, I'm not sure if I'm not in Taylor's camp. I'm not sure. But I remember thinking, it's a reasonable hypothesis.
Yeah.
And
it made sense.
Yeah, it made sense.
Yeah. So it kind of I was like, oh man, we got to rethink this whole topic now.
So yeah, so do you guys remember? Because my hypothesis is, and you're kind of in the same camp until the discussion with Taylor, is that there is no real physical toughness.
Yeah.
It's mental toughness because in order to do things that are difficult physically, it's not a body decision, it's a mind decision.
Yeah.
Your mind has to push you to do that.
Which is what I kind of explained.
I think I went the topic of saying like the Disney movie, The Sword in the Stone.
Yeah.
I think I went that route saying like, and he was like, well, that was just a mental thing. And I was like, no, it wasn't. I was like, the man, he was strong. And we got into this whole discussion.
Yes.
And I was like, I think it's like, I mean, if you take, let's say, someone never worked out a day in his life. Someone, super thin, just lives his best life. And then you get a man who works out every single day. But maybe this guy's...
Man or woman, excuse me.
Man or woman,
yes.
you are correct.
Excuse me.
I am...
Excuse
wow.
me, Taylor.
Yeah.
Disrespecting my own gender.
I'm hurt.
Female or male, this person is mentally tougher, and this one's mentally weak. And my dance teachers always said it's essentially mind over matter. It's what your mind tells you to do, but I definitely think that it's I mean, your body, everyone's built differently. You definitely got to work for it too. So I think it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
That's
That was
so
that
that's
was a good
actually
point.
that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. That in order to get tough, in order to get physically strong or physically tough, you actually have to be mentally tough first. So that's what it was. There was a time thing to it. 100. I think you came down on. Absolutely, you have to have mental toughness to be physically tough. But once you're physically tough, you're physically tough.
Exactly.
Right?
Like
So,
I was saying, like I go to the gym,
yeah.
and I was like, my motivation is my mental toughness to
Right.
go to the gym.
Right.
But when I'm there working out, I'm in the zone. It is it is my body. I am working my body out. Like I am doing that. Like I'm not thinking. I'm not using my brain. Like
Right.
or at least like in the moment, that's how I'm feeling. I'm just listening to my music.
Right.
And I mean, my mental toughness was getting me there. It was getting me there. It was working out. And I think that's definitely that was the route that I was looking at.
Yeah. And this is a great example of now Acres of Diamonds making the student-mentor relationship. Now she's teaching me what toughness is.
Well, and it should be that way, right?
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
It should be.
Yes. Because I ended up totally thinking, all right, maybe I think she's actually kind of right. This might just be a general toughness, and you might just use one point. All right, the mental toughness got me to the gym, but now once I'm there, I'm physically moving the weights.
Yeah.
Granted, I mean, we can get down to, my mind is telling my bicep to contract and things along those lines, but it definitely made me halt just a little bit on what I believed.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready to upend my hypothesis yet, but
okay.
I didn't say fully swing.
but I do.
It halted me.
I really, more than anything, I really appreciate what you said about a healthy debate, because I am so frustrated about America these days that people, like you said, you're wrong. I'm not trying to be right or wrong. I'm telling you what I believe. Just how I feel. There is no right or wrong to what I believe or how I feel. What do you feel? What do you believe? I'd like to learn what you feel or believe, and maybe we adjust our hypothesis, right? Maybe I adjust what I feel or believe because I've listened to what you feel or believe. Right? Yeah. We're missing that today.
I think it's all about experiences, like your self experiences. I mean, you can't tell someone that they can't feel a certain way, so it's pretty ignorant to like get in a debate with someone and just say that they're wrong. Like, no, they passionately believe that for a reason, just based off their own personal experiences. Right. Just like I believe the opposite because of my own personal experiences. Like, okay, for example, like soulmates. Like some people are like, oh, I believe that there's, a person out there just based off experiences. But then I could just sit here and say, I don't believe in soulmates. I just think, there's people that you just like, you'll click with, people you get along with. But who am I to tell you that you're wrong? Maybe you found your soulmate, Mm-hmm. And who are you to tell me that I'm wrong? Maybe I haven't found mine.
Yeah.
And who's to say there's just one? There's
exactly.
7.5 billion people in the world.
Exactly.
Maybe there's multiple.
Yeah.
Right?
There's many different ways of looking at a relationship then too.
Right.
Whether it's a soulmate or whether it's someone you click with. It's your belief. It's ours. That's what makes it cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Taylor. So, when are we moving?
I am moving Friday at 4 a.m. Movers are coming Thursday. We're packing it up
so
and then leaving
May
first thing
22nd.
May 22nd. I am out of Rochester.
Movie day.
Yep.
What day will we be on the beach?
Saturday.
Saturday the 23rd.
Yeah.
I'm expecting a picture to both of us. Beach is fun. Hope you guys are enjoying Rochester.
Rain.
Yeah, the rain.
So it took my wife about 10 and a half or 11 hours to drive down there yesterday. She drove down on the 15th, and I had him send me a picture. I was lonely yesterday. I got used to having everybody home because they've been home a lot together, but I've been in New York City for the last 3 years for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So but now we've all been home together for the last 8 or 9, 10 weeks, whatever it's been. And I was like, huh, they're not here. This is weird.
What do I do now?
Yeah. So I am so proud of both of you.
Thank you.
I really, really am. And that story about that day, DJ, when you showed up and you clearly recognized that Taylor needed something different, and Taylor, you making sure he knew how you felt and that maybe you needed something different, and then the two of you together coming up with what you came up with. And then
I honestly don't think I would have ever made the bold moves that I did, like, unless we had that meeting. If we never had that meeting and just went into roles, I don't think I would have quit. I think I would have stayed and settled. So
and who knows what?
Yeah.
I mean, that day changed my life.
Well, it's changed me.
Made
Just,
me
it's
think.
just, yeah.
Made me, meeting people where they are. There's nothing that people want to do things on their terms.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the important.
And
That's
you
super
and you
important.
reminded, like, look, I've known her for what, 2 hours,
Yeah.
an hour and a half, an hour 40 minutes, and she's obviously a very, very strong-willed person, right? And all she needed was someone to remind her of it, right? Through some tools, which is what you did, right?
And we were on about 6 hours of our relationship by that point too.
And I always get, like, everyone asks me, wait, what? Really? That happened so fast? Like, do you have any family down there? Do you have any friends? Like, I'll answer your questions now. I do not know a single person in North Carolina. I don't know anybody. But I've always been super independent. I mean, I moved 3,000 miles across the country, you know, to live in Alaska. So I've always been super independent. I mean, I do love my family. I love my family with all my heart. My nephew, probably gonna miss him the most. Sorry, Mom. She's probably gonna watch this. But I definitely made it a point that it's not like the military where I come home twice a year and that's it. Like, the way that I made sure the schedule worked is I could take days off, I could come home for long weekends, and it's a 10-hour drive. Or it's a cheap flight that's under $150. Like, I'll be okay. And I'll be able to see them, and I'll make it work. But at the end of the day, you gotta make a big step. You gotta take a chance, you know, to create your own happiness. And I knew I wasn't happy here in Rochester, so if that means being alone in a state that I want to be at because no one else wants to be there, I'm gonna do it because I know it makes me happy.
You got your dog. You're not alone, for crying out loud. And
Sometimes my dog's very annoying. I love her, but she's annoying. Very clingy.
And you just described the type of person you are, which is outgoing, like to be around people, want to talk to people. So alone is going to be
Very temporary.
way temporary, right?
Yeah, no, I'm very good at meeting people. Like, my dad's so worried. He's like, what if you're in a bad area, or what if you do this? I'm like, well, first thing I'm doing when I get there is get my, you know, concealed carry permit because I'll be living alone. You know, I want to be safe anyways. But I meet anybody. I can make friends anywhere. I could go to a restaurant and just walk up to somebody. I could go to the beach and walk up to somebody. That's how I've always been. I was like, Dad, you should know me by now. This is who I am.
And I felt that the first time I met her. I was like, this girl, she's good with people, like she had said. So, which I think is, I think it's a measure of self-confidence. I think it's a measure of understanding who you are. You know, there's nothing like walking. You know, I remember I had a list of rules in my office, and number 8 on the list is never be afraid to ask out the hottest looking girl in the room. And I think that's so important from, like, just so metaphorically speaking. It's like, listen,
Right.
I'll go up. I'm either failing or succeeding. It's that simple. Either way, I will still be the same person at the end of this.
Wow, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell all you guys out there who might be, you know, scared about going after that girl you really want. Just do it. Who cares?
That's
I
awesome.
think that's the important part.
And that's actually what Taylor's doing. Just doing it. Who cares, right? And we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, you two have inspired me, I can tell you that. So thank you for sharing your experience with Acres of Diamonds. And Taylor, the best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
It's going to be fantastic.
I'm very excited.
And I encourage you to share not only the podcast with Jesse, but reach out to Jesse and let him know the impact he's made on your life. Leadership's lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to positively reinforce the good leaders so that they continue to want to be good leaders.
Yeah.
So he would love to hear that from you.
Yeah.
Believe me, he would love to hear that from you. And he's obviously made a positive impact on your life if you're still emotional about it when you talk about him and how he's made you feel. So thank you, Jesse. Anything else from you too?
I think I've talked enough.
I got one more thing that I think would be important. One reoccurring topic that came up was Taylor's mom and how much she loved her, and I think one of the questions we discussed was, you know, who's the toughest person you know, and she said her mom, and so that's I think one of the the line she said was, "Strong women raise strong women," and I always thought that was like very, it was very pure. It was very simple, and so shout out Taylor's mom.
I
Like,
think it got
that's,
brought up at least one
every
time
time.
in each session.
Yeah.
We talked about my mom.
I feel like I know the whole family, and I haven't really even met any of them, but it made me feel good just hearing Taylor talk about the love that she has for not only her sisters and Jack and baby Jack and her mom and her dad. I think it was refreshing.
That is awesome, and
Yeah.
to your dad, there's not a day that we meet where you don't say, "Yeah, my dad says," or "My dad taught me this," and you and I, all three of us have people in our lives that made us feel better about ourselves, right? And in general, we have to continue to let them know the positive impact they made in our lives.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody is as incredibly lucky as we are to
Right.
have those people in our life.
Yeah.
So, shout out to my mom. I love
Yeah.
you.
That's awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you. Podcast number 11. We're out.
See ya.
Thank you.